All right. Well, welcome. Yes. Okay, I can't do it. I thought for a minute, I don't know if you guys know my background, but I have actually preached in churches before, and this is far too familiar. So let me do this. Okay. So I had to ask, I had to check my emails going back a couple of weeks ago to figure out what am I supposed to talk about and find my title. And so I'm going to just hit for a few minutes something that I am really passionate about that I want to challenge you guys with. But then I'm just going to let you ask questions if you guys got any questions. If you ask me a question, I want a really hard question. So start right now thinking about a question that might frustrate some CEOs, or let's talk about the thing nobody is talking about, or because I've had some conversations at my booth that they were like, I can't believe you're talking about this. I'll start there. Okay, here's what I want to start with. So tell me first, let me get to know my crowd here. Who owns, I know with some of you, who owns a 3D printer? Everybody? Everybody here owns a 3D printer, okay? You guys, you realize, right, do you still feel like we're in a really small club? I mean, do you still talk to people? Who talks to people, I don't know, let's just say in the last 30 days, who's talked to somebody that thought to themselves, you own a 3D printer? In other words, you talk to people that don't own 3D printers and never seen one. Okay. So while it may feel like somebody sent me a tweet or an email saying, I'm so glad that 3D printing is finally getting there's a trip that I was going to, and I was saying, I got to travel to this event. He was like, it's so awesome 3D printing's getting the recognition it finally deserves. And I thought to myself, no, it's not even close. I've been doing this 7 years, and I just want to remind you guys, we are at the very beginning. It is just started. And honestly, let's take an honest look at ourselves for a second. And here's where I'm starting. This is the title of the talk, which is really only about 5 minutes. And it's this. Okay, so you own a 3D printer. And parenthetically, congratulations. And you're welcome. Some of you. But, pat yourself on the back. You did it. You're one of the freaks that owns a 3D printer and can actually get it to work. So congratulations, you did it. You deserve the status for being an early adopter, which you're even beyond early adopter, really. Some of you guys are like bleeding edge, love to put yourself through this really frustrating process of when 3D printers emerged. It was just terrible. I had a MakerBot first, and when it arrived, and I'm not trying to talk bad about MakerBot, actually. I will ever be grateful to them for getting me started. But I remember when it arrived and it had 1,200, it had to be, I was counting every nut, every bolt, every zip tie, everything. There was like 1,000 pieces there. It was ridiculous. And I'm supposed to build this with my 6-year-old boy. That's terrible. But anyway, so it was hard to get you guys this far, right? Collectively, think of the man hours, the amount of human resources that we have all used to get to where we are today. Just this small group. It's got to be staggering. It's like lifetimes, all right? So, you did it. We have 3D printers that are easier to use, but it's still pretty hard. It's still hard. Your neighbor isn't going to come over and borrow your printer for a day and not need you, dearly, to make it work, right? It's just not going to happen. So we're not there yet. But here's what I'm hoping. I love that this is rep rap. I love rep rap. But I was tempted to start the talk like this, and I decided against it. I was gonna do this. Rep rap is dead. It's dead. You're not surprised, Josh? Yeah, he's kind of like me. Like, I heard, actually, Tom is doing if you follow Tom's videos, Tom's 3D, he does stuff on YouTube. And he came to interview me for the RepRap movie that he's working on. He's trying to, like, show how this thing happened from Adrian Boyer all the way to wherever we are now. I guess here, right? And he asked me, is RepRap still alive? And I was kind of like uncomfortable. That's an uncomfortable. No, it's yeah. I mean, yes. He gave me his opinion. You'll watch the movie, but really, here's what RepRap. I went to the wiki to see what was the goal of the project, and the project was stated in the wiki at least as we're going to democratize or like bring the price down of a 3D printer that can make copies of itself, even the electronics, it can print copies of itself so that the whole world can be wealthy, have access to all the same stuff because we all have the printers that print the other printers and all the other stuff, all the things. Okay, that was like a really steep goal. I remember thinking, how are we going to print electronics? And I pulled up a video of a guy who had like CNC'd little or 3D printed little troughs to squirt solder into in this trail. Did you see that video? Like way back where it wasn't you, was it, Bill? No, okay. I was like, I don't want to insult the guy, but I was like, well, that was like the only way to do it was like the wrong way, like the worst way. Like it's a bad idea to print electronics today. Like go home and try to print the electronics. It's not going to happen. So reality check. We're not going to print electronics, people. It's not going to happen, all right? And right now, we're 7 years down the road, or maybe 10, some would say 40. Let's take a vote. Do you think that someday in the next 10 years, everyone will own a 3D printer? Raise your hand if you think everyone will own a 3D printer. Let's back it down. Do you think within 10 years, you will easily be able to find someone in your neighborhood that has a 3D printer? Wow, did I go too far? Okay. Do you think, let's go even easier. Do you think that you'll be able to talk to somebody, talk about your 3D printer, and they won't think you're weird? Yeah, okay. I mean, it's still, see, we're at the beginning, guys. We're just getting started, but here's what you guys have done. You've got 3D printers, you know how to use them, but what are you doing with them? What are you doing with them? Let me guess. You're fixing your printers. Raise your hand. You're fixing your printers. Okay. Wait a minute. Isn't that what we've been doing for the last 7 years? How far have we come? What is and I'm not talking about geekiest, but I'm talking about useful. What is the thing that I want you guys to tell me. What have you printed that changed somebody's life? I'm taking answers from the audience now. What? Enable hand. Okay. Who's printed one of those? All right. I'm going to be the bad guy again. Who knows a kid that has worn one for longer than 24 hours? Longer than 48 hours? Wears it all the time? All the time. Oh, that's great to hear. But here's one. I asked a kid that was in a video about one of these. You know, there's a bunch of different flavors of these hands. And I asked the kid, so what was it like? He was like, oh, it was really cool. The kids at school really liked it. And I was like, so do you wear it every day? No. It wasn't Enable. It was another one. I was like, why not? And he goes, it's uncomfortable. And I'm like, well, what do you normally wear then? He goes, no, I like going without it. And, you know, I learned to use, he had these two fingers. I'm better with this, you know. So I wonder if some of these projects that even they get a lot of attention for changing the world, are they really? Okay, so for some kids, that's true. I know that I've met people with prosthetic limbs that actually use 3D printed parts every day. You are right. It's happening, right? That's the right idea, all right? At least we got one. We got one. Okay, so what else? What else have you printed that has changed somebody's life? Yes. Okay, so he's got a friend or a boss. I don't know if a boss is a friend. How did that happen? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So he's got dialysis, and you printed a port. Okay, he has a port. So you printed a piece? Okay. Oh, I got it. Okay. So it's a convenience thing for him. Now, why didn't he just get the one on the shelf and buy that? It doesn't exist. Okay. Okay, cool. Now, I do stuff like that all the time. Like, I find stuff in my house that's broken and fix it. You know, instead of throwing the thing away, if you can fix it, that's all good. I don't have to convince you guys. I'm not here to impress you with that. I want to challenge you, though. I think we gotta, when I look out here, I see a bunch of silos, frankly. That's what I'm trying to say. Is that there's like, I'll pick on you, I don't even know who you are. But let's say this guy can design in Fusion 360 or SolidWorks or something. Can you design? He's like, he doesn't want to brag, but he's awesome. And I'm just kidding. That's like me, I'm like, of course I can design. You ought to, there's so much I can't do. But I can do a lot of smoke and mirrors. But anyway, so I do design. So this guy does design in Fusion 360. He's got a printer. He's the prototype typical person like us, right? He works on it alone a lot. Not maybe you, I'm just saying, I'm representing us. I'm an individual. So he works on it alone. Projects that he doesn't really want to deal with people because that's too hard sometimes. I know I'm picking on you, but it's just too complicated. I get somebody else involved and like they have a different schedule, they have a different printer, they don't like Fusion 360, they're open source, so they have to use Linux. And like some of this stuff is hard and me and him it's not a good match. He likes Printrbot, I have Ultimaker, or whatever it is. Insert two manufacturers there. There's too much rub between us to really work together on a project. So what we end up doing is working alone. We work alone. We have a pet project that we do ourselves because it's important to me. Now it's a good thing if you're helping somebody. It's like that one little silver bullet for that one little thing that they need or can't afford, or it's going to improve their life in one little way, in small ways, and that's important. But here's what I don't see happening. I don't see groups of us, I just see silos out here. I don't see groups of us deciding on a project that could change a lot of people's lives. A lot of people's lives. And here's my question, why not? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we reaching across manufacturers' lines? Who's associated with a manufacturer of 3D printers or someone in the industry right now? There's 3 of us? Is that it? All right, but there's a bunch out here at table 4. You too? Mosaic. See, what I like here is I know some of these guys. I think it's time to stop worrying about your brand. And I mean, I'm at rep rap, so I won't ruffle too many feathers here. But I see a problem. Brands are kind of protecting their own stuff. And I'll tell you why that is. Absolute fear that we're going to die, like the company's going to run out of money, okay? There's fear. There's fear that that's going to happen. And by the way, if you follow, it's happening. It's happening. I've had a horrible year financially, terrible. The worst ever, like scared to death. Like and I'm Printrbot, right? You should be fine. No, everybody's affected. Very difficult right now. So we're going to have to change. We got to change. How do we change? I think we got to start working together in some way. I've found out I'm good at a couple of things, but I'm not good at everything. Bill is good at different things than I'm good at. So I think it's time for people to start working together. I just had a conversation. I don't want to point them out, but I was trying to get this manufacturer to be a little bit more, hey, let's... I know your markup. What do you think about maybe a little more affordability there? We're the only one in this space. We don't have to be affordable. I'm like, what? Oh, so you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, you know, we're industrial. We're industrial. I'm like, why are you here? Seriously, why are you here? This is an industry. This is like a bunch of geeks, like by themselves doing fun stuff because we love it. We're passionate people. So why are you here? So anyway, I think businesses are going to have to work together, but it won't, you know, that won't matter if I die and go away, or if, you know, some other company dies and goes away. You guys will still be 3D printing. But again, I want to ask you, what are you doing with it? I don't think it's enough for the most talented people here with the most skills. It's not enough to just sit alone and do your own little pet projects. So what needs to happen to get people together to work on bigger projects? And here's how it doesn't work, people. Well, we want to reach out to the world that needs this thing, and so we're going to convince Intel or Printrbot or whatever to donate a bunch of money, and then our little foundation will be able to go change the world. Like, that is not how RepRap works, folks, or how 3D printing is going to work at all. We're going to have to find some, and maybe it's not your number one passion. Okay, so I'm going to take an example. Ever since, this has haunted me since the beginning of my Kickstarter 7 years ago. I talked to this guy. He was like trying to get a hold of me and get a hold of me and get a hold of me. And he was like, you're so hard to get a hold of. Little joke about myself. I was like, well, I got 7 of your emails. I just haven't answered you yet. It's not because I'm hard to get a hold of. It's brook@printrbot.com, always has been. But I finally answered the guy, and I saw that he was in a small island in the Pacific, and they had been stripped, their island had been stripped bare. They had no natural resources. All they had was trash coming up on the shore. And so I thought, oh, brilliant. We just have to learn how to recycle plastic and print from it. 7 years later, we just have to figure out how to grind the plastic and print from it. 7 years later, we can't figure out how to grind plastic and print from it? What are we doing? Like, come on. I'm spitting, I'm so passionate about this. But anyway, so here's what I propose. You guys go home and find something worth investing in your time, to split your time. Keep doing your passion projects. Organize yourselves. Now, I've found that organizing open source is like herding cats. I think it's always been that way. It's terrible. There's 10 ideas in the room. Everybody thinks they're right. Nobody wants to work with any of the other guys or girls. It's a hot mess. We got to get over that if we're going to change the world. We have the tools. It is the time. It's a unique time in the world where I think it's better. It's better than, okay, maybe it's not better than personal computers, but it's better than the internet, I think. The internet isn't really improving our lives in measurable ways. We're still dying, you know. Honestly, it's just created a bunch of zombies, I think, and so I don't know. We've learned to be more insulated from others, and I think that's bad. But we're at a time when we have tools, we have software, like the software that I know how to use now. I'm shocked that it exists and that mere mortals can use it, but it's happening, so check the box. I have equipment on my garage desk that is insane. I mean, go through Josh's lab. What you have, it's insane. I mean, all of us. Who has more than one printer? Look, you should be ashamed of yourselves, people. Who has more than 3? Who has more than 4? More than 5? More than 6? More than 10? More than 20? Okay, but we're manufacturers, right? I mean, we're associated. How many do you have? 25? How many do you have? 60 something? Jeez. I don't count because they're parts on a shelf. Like, how many do I have running is like the real question, right? I should have said, how many do you have running? Let's go back. Anyway, so you guys, we have tools that it's insane. You know the ability of these machines, okay? So I don't have to convince you. But like CNC, that's starting to get interesting to me too now. Like laser cutters, I thought were going to be the thing, and like now I'm like, I don't know. I think between 3D printing and CNC or lathe or something like that, we got to start making stuff that can be used in the real world, right? I mean, that has to happen. That's what I'm excited about as a manufacturer. Like, we have to start making things real people can use. Like, stop printing the freaking Yoda heads. Like, just think about what is possible if we got our heads together with the technology that exists on the shelf today. So here's the one that I've been waiting for, that little island. I said, okay, so you got trash. We're going to figure out how to grind this plastic and print stuff. So I'm working with Philibot. Tyler, he's been kind of a, we're both two people that really shouldn't be running businesses, you know, like at all, for different reasons. But what he is, he's really passionate about recycling. And so I thought, you know what, that's good. So he's developing this grinder. Also, Precious Plastic, they have a design. Is it .net or .org or Precious Plastic .something? Go Google it. They have designs. If you have a water jet, which I do, and I haven't done it yet, but I want to build one of theirs to see if that could work. But even if it's just getting together on a project to get a grinder that freaking works to send to the island so they can like start recycling plastic would be a step in the right direction. Or here's an idea, some pellet extruders that actually work, like in a large scale. So I'm working with Philibot. We're doing this thing he calls the pellet head. I bought the first one. It was ridiculous expensive. But we're going to get the cost down. And I think probably some of his design was kind of nefarious, but we'll fix that. But open source these plans. So there's two that I'm passionate about. Recycling for like real people, not like fake, like get the grant, you know, from people if we mention all the words and we're green and like all that nonsense. Like, I believe in this stuff, but all too often it's just a chance to get money from people so that we can do a pet project. Now, I'm talking about changing the world, not running a successful marketing campaign. So there's one, but I've just picked that. But I asked the guy, okay, so let's say we could do this. We can have recycled plastic that prints on a real machine with like the grind, you know, not pellets, but it's like ground up powder stuff. What would you print? Oh, it's easy. Third world, they need to carry water from A to B. So, and that's a real problem, actually. I didn't realize this. But I've talked to people that are like, not just people that live over there, but missionaries or like, you know, they go over to help people. They're NGOs or whatever. Getting water from A to B is a problem. So I was like, oh, all you'd have to print is a basin? And they're like, yeah, that's it. Like, that would be really useful. Now, I don't know how that all works with recycled plastic. Doesn't sound sterile to me. But I said, okay, so what else that's not as critical to your health there? And he goes, well, the second problem is a toilet. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, just sanitary measures, like basic sanitary measures. And I was like, we could print a toilet. And he goes, yes, you could. And that would be great. And I'm like, okay, how big does the printer have to be? And he's like, well, it would have to be like, I don't know, 2 foot or 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet. I'm like, that's it? We have printers out here that right now we could be doing this. And instead of bragging about the open RC car, which I love Daniel Norrie, he's a friend, or the drone, or the 7th printer that I've designed and made. I've designed 50-some, like, yeah, congratulations, Brooke. You're changing no one in this world. But let's just put some time aside in the future. I got to stop talking here in a second. Let's put some time aside. Let's begin to work together as manufacturers or as people online. That is this is the time in our life that we have the coolest tools and the best communication technology out there. So why aren't we doing more to change the world? Like I talked to you about your pinball project. That is a passion project. You guys got to keep those. You got to keep doing that because that's what we need. We have jobs. Like literally, sometimes I hate my job. I got to come home and do something else, right? So that's cool. But put something on your list or a goal on your list this year to find one other guy or girl to other people, somebody local, maybe it's somebody around the world, but find a reason to use your skills to do something that's bigger and beyond your garage or your table or your school or your community. There's so much talent, so much we could do, and I think some of these ways that you can change the world are actually quite simple. We could print toilets from trash and not care if somebody wants to give us $1 million for a campaign to leverage what you're doing. Like, screw that. I don't want to get paid for whatever, MakerBot, to use this as an ad campaign. I just want to do it because it's the right thing to do, and it doesn't need to be. So I hope I come back next year and I see that there's 1 or 2 projects that have a big picture in mind, a global thing, instead of a bunch of silos out here. Because I do believe that if we don't get outside our silos, if we don't start working together, if we don't pivot as companies, if we don't start looking for projects that are 10 years out, not 6-month projects or something, we got to think bigger, because the tools are here, the software is here, the skills are here, the people are here, but it's what you're doing with it. Last thing, and I'll be done. If you want to ask me questions, just come up and we'll talk. Has anybody seen *Halt and Catch Fire* on Netflix? A few of you. I'm not recommending it for everybody, but I was fascinated by it. But I'm stealing one quote from *Halt and Catch Fire*. It's not the thing. I'll explain this. It's not the thing. 3D printing is not the thing. It's the thing that gets you to the thing. It's not the thing. It's the thing that gets you to the thing. It's not about the printers. I'm a printer manufacturer. It's not about printers, okay? I used to say it's not about the printers, it's about the prints. I don't say that anymore. It's not about the prints. It's not about the printers. It's not about the prints. What's more important? The people. It's about the people. And I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the people that are affected, their lives are improved, their problems are solved. It's about the people. I know that. It's about interacting with you guys. It's about doing something bigger than ourselves for other people. But I know this, it's not the thing. It's the thing that gets you to the thing. Thanks, guys.